Hi, this is Eric Romiquay. I'm the founder of txconverter.com. And over the past few weeks, I've actually done some interviews and some webinars for folks. And I had a few of my clients ask me a pretty important question. And I thought, what if I did a presentation to really go over their question? So their question was this. It was, if I were to choose a couple of different things that a business owner, a doctor should focus on in the new year to help increase their productivity, what would they be? All right, so I decided, let me go ahead and put together a quick presentation. I'm going to make it as quick as possible. Sometimes I can get long-winded because I get so excited about this. But I'm going to go ahead and do this presentation, and it's with the sole purpose of educating somebody. So I hope that people see this. If you see value in it, if you think somebody could be helped by it, please pass it on to them, okay? This is not a sales pitch. At the end of the video, I'm going to have my email. If you have any questions, I'll share what my pricing is right up front. And if you have any questions, email me. If you don't, no big deal. This is not a sales pitch. So, a little bit about me. I spent 25 plus years in the car business. And then I was fortunate enough to retire early. And then I started a few other businesses. Then in a consulting business, I came across a client, an orthodontist who had recently purchased a practice and it wasn't doing as well as she thought it would. So what started off as being supposedly going to be a 6-month consulting contract ended up being me actually running the day-to-day business for the next 8 years. So we took the practice in a few years to levels that it had never seen before. We built a brand new state-of-the-art office. We moved in and we continued to grow, and we actually took the practice to market and received a premium for it. So I couldn't have done all of that, number one, without the wonderful team that I was fortunate enough to put into place. They get the credit. I had a wonderful team. But at the end of the day, it comes down, in any business, it comes down to having the right people with the right process. So let's assume for a moment that you have the right people in place. All they need is the right processes. So that's what we're going to talk about here. And the two things that come to mind when I was asked what would be the things that I would focus on in the new year, and that's why I named this slide here New Year, New Focus, would be on two things actually. It encompasses measuring and managing your potential income. And the second would be to make sure that you have consistent and effective follow-up process in place. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, and hopefully again you are able to learn something from this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this next slide is just a quick question. That's something I put in here and I talk about it all the time because I want people to think about it. How many of you are managing your pending exams and follow-up process with a manual spreadsheet? Unfortunately, a lot of you still are. But in this day and age, with all the technology that's out there, that's what I want you to think about too. You have to think about and work on getting away from that. All right? Now, for most orthodontic practices, getting more starts is a constant challenge. Increase your starts on a consistent basis in 2020 by focusing on 4 potential income points. That's what we're going to talk about today. All right? Now, quick question. Do you measure and manage your receivables in your practice? Now, these are some of the answers that I get normally. Yes, of course, absolutely, definitely. Doesn't everyone? Well, of course you do. But there's a reason why I asked that, and that's because I'm about to show you how our software will allow you to measure and manage your potential income, which is basically your pending exams, with the same discipline you measure and manage your receivables. See, the 4 PI points that will increase your production in any practice, if measured and managed on a daily basis, are these: the number of pending exams, the dollar value of each pending exam, aging of each exam, and the specific reason each exam is pending. So I'll give you a couple seconds here if you want to screenshot this or write these things down. These four things play a major factor in the management of your pending exams and the follow-up process. All right. See, knowing this information will provide you with the who, the when, and the how to properly follow up, and will dramatically increase your chances of converting your PI into AI, commonly known as a pending exam into a start. See, in any sales organization, I don't care what they're selling, the money is in the follow-up. And unfortunately, we haven't seen that, or the dental industry really hasn't come to realize that as much as they should. And that's the whole premise on why I created TX Converter and the coaching programs that go along with it. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some actual reports. All right, so the first, let me go back to that question I asked you is, do you manage your receivables? And everybody's, yes, of course. Doesn't everybody? Well, does this look familiar? You basically have, you look at your 90-day receivables report probably every day, right? And what you see is the number of accounts, the aging, and the dollar value. Well, we've taken that same concept of how you manage your receivables to doing the same thing in terms of managing your PI, your potential income. Right? So for this particular practice, you can see that they have 24 pending exams in the 1 to 30, 13 in the 31 to 60 days, 17 to 61, 90, and only 3, thankfully, in the 91 to 120 days. So they have a total of 57 pending exams by aging and dollar amount, meaning that this practice has $297,000 in pending exams. All right, so that's why I asked you that, because when you logged in, if you're using TX Converter and you log in, this is one of two reports that you're going to see right on the dashboard. You're going to see exactly how many pending exams do you have, how old are they, and how much. All right, the other report that I want to review with you real quick is the, not the follow-up report, we'll get that in a minute, is your potential income and loss report. Okay, and this is where you're going to find all four of the information together as well. So the number of pending exams, you can see here, this practice has 79. The dollar value of each pending exam, you can see the total here, the aggregate of $378,000 worth of pending exams, but you can also see each individual exam and their dollar value. Then you can see the aging of each exam off to the right here, and then the specific reason why each one of these exams is in pending status. So for example, we have $117,000 in this section for waiting for a future date. In this section here, review with spouse, we have $91,000 in the review with spouse category, pending category. In this section here, they have about $31,000 in pending insurance approval. Then they have another $50,000 here for pending dental clearance work. So this is the potential income and loss report. So on here you can see the information. It starts off with, you can see the actual first exam date, and that's how the system calculates the aging that you see off to the right. You see the specific treatment plan that was for this particular patient. You see, we also track the source. So you can see, how did this patient come to your practice? And then obviously pending status and why they're pending. Now, what I didn't talk about is the loss. And let me just show you that real quick. We also track the loss. Why do we do that? Well, as business owners, as you know, you look at a P&L every month, right, to see the health of your practice. Well, our job is to increase the profits for the P and then reduce our losses, right? But before we can reduce our loss, it's like everything else. Before you can manage something, you have to measure it, right? So that's why we actually track our losses. The system will do this for you. And so, for example, in the chose another doctor section, this practice lost $56,000 so far this year. From January to September in 2019. $56,000. Can you do something about that? Well, you can if you drill down and you look at this and see if there's any commonalities here on things that maybe you can improve upon. Moving out of the area, lost 5,700, nothing you can do about that. Price too expensive, this practice lost about 32,000 for this category. Can you look in here? Yeah, most practices say, oh, well, or most TCs, well, I lost them the price, so I'm going to move on. What we train in our coaching is if you have a good rapport with this person, let's try to find out a little bit more information. You know, why was our price? How much too expensive was our price? You know, you want to stay on top of your competition and your area, and the only way to do that is ask. And more often than not, they'll probably tell you. Treatment declined is another section here that this practice lost about $44,000 in treatment decline. Do the same thing, drill down, find out what's going on. So far from the January to September timeframe, this practice lost about $138,000 for these reasons. So if you measure it, you can manage it. Now hopefully this practice can work on reducing that. All right, so that's our potential income and loss report that you can see, which provides you all that information right there and makes it readily available. Let me bring this down and bring up the follow-up report now. Now this report is a follow-up report, and we have an active follow-up system. So we train the TCs on our coaching program that before, if somebody is going to not be a same-day start and they're going to leave, what you want to do is identify two things. Number one, why are they leaving? And number two, set up your next follow-up action. And in doing so, you know, I showed you that the dashboard report, right, where it showed all of your pending exams by aging and the dollar value. Well, the second report is this follow-up report. So when you log into the system, a follow-up report is going to come up, and it's going to show you who you need to follow up with. All right. And then if you run the follow-up report, you can see things like this. So this first one here, you can see the first consult date was June 20th. And between June 20th and August 12th, over almost 60 days here, they've been following up, going back and forth, which is good. Then basically in August, the mom says, well, money's a little tight, but she does want to start, but please get back to her in another 2 months. So that way the TC now, which would normally try to remember this, maybe put it into their manual spreadsheet, won't see it, you can actually schedule your next follow-up action, and this will now show up when you pull up your report on 10/25 or whatever the future date may be. The system will actually pull it up when you log in. You'll see that. All right. So you can see that here's a whole bunch of people that these folks need to follow up with. Like here's another one here, real quick. You know, where first exam was September 16th. They left because they went to pending status review with spouse. Then they did a follow-up in a live call per mom. She said she will know in 2 weeks if she will move forward with treatment. So that's 9/19. So they went ahead and scheduled it for 10/7. So they now know that this follow-up will pop up on 10/7. You won't forget. You'll see this report. You'll know that when they were in, why they were for braces, why they're in pending status, and the last follow-up date was here. The next follow-up date is 10/7, and you know why you're going to be following up or how you're going to be following up. So let's say, for example, that your TC does get busy. We all know that they wear multiple hats. The unfortunate part about that is that's a great asset that they're able to do multiple things, but when they do get so busy, the first thing that usually gets put on the back burner, or worse yet, never gets done, is the follow-up. And so let's assume for a moment that your TC got super busy and didn't follow up with these folks. If they do not update the follow-up status for a patient or potential patient on the specific date, it'll turn red. The system will automatically turn the date into red, and it will keep it there until you update the follow-up notes. All right, so you can see, oh, I forgot about these people, let me get them as a priority. All right, so that's how the system will help you there as well. All right, so our goal is to take people from the potential income and loss in the follow-up report and turn them over to a conversion report. All right, so let me show you an actual conversion report here. And what it's going to do is, so everybody that you convert into a start, you'll change the status and it'll automatically go here. So you can do a couple things here. You can analyze it. So for this particular practice, if you look at the aging here, the first thing that stood out to me, and this practice was they're kind of okay at the $50,000 range in terms of month production. So obviously that's a very small office, but they're okay with that. But you can still, whether you're this small at 50,000 or you're making 200 grand, this is where TX Converter can help you. For example, as you see here in aging, there's nobody here that's, over 21 days. All of the start dates are in August, and all of the first consult dates were in August. What does that tell you? The first thing that tells me is what happened to all of the exams that you did from January through July that are impending. Where are they? How come I don't have a single aged pending exam that came in and we were able to convert them, right? So that tells me that there's not much follow-up going on in this practice. That's what this report tells me. All right, so, but at least TX Converter was able to identify this, and now this doctor can really work on that. Here's another conversion report here where TX Converter, now obviously this practice does a little bit better than that one. It has 16 starts at 77,000. But take a look at this one. This one, they're not good at same-day starts at all, right? They only have 2 here. And most of them are aged. Now, here's 135 days, 134, 75, 86. This is 62. This are people that would normally be forgotten about. But because of TX Converter and these folks are making sure that they're scheduling their next follow-up action, the system is helping them remind them, even when they're super old, to come in here and to follow up and get a conversion. All right. Now, let me show you something else. Now, this is happening in a lot of practices, okay? Now, this is some results, as you can see here, from October. I just went in last month to a client, and I said, the doctor was concerned, Eric, do you think that, you could help me get better? And I said, absolutely. Let's take a look at something. We did a quick analysis, and I just took here, what do we got, about 4 patients that were pending, and take a look at the exam date. And you can do this, and I strongly suggest that you do. Take a handful of take your pending exams for the last quarter or the last 90 days. Put them on a spreadsheet. See when they came in and look at their aging and when the follow-up was. So in this particular case, we got some that came in on October 24th, and the first follow-up attempt wasn't until November 14th. The second, November 22nd, and then the third, December 13th. Exam date, September 27th. Never got a follow-up until November 19th. Exam date, November 8th. Never got a follow-up until December 13th. And this is a first follow-up. You see, October 24th, they did a good job here, 4 days, but then the second follow-up wasn't until December 13th. You see, and then you can see October, 3 days later, they did a first attempt to follow up, and then not until December again. September 11th, December, 2 months. November 5th, let's wait a month, and then we'll follow up, right? And then let's wait another 10 days to do the second follow-up. This, to me, is probably happening more often than you think, but you will never know it until you start measuring it. Just on these 7 people, there's $30,000 right there. All right, so that's what I encourage you to do. Do a quick analysis. Get a spreadsheet like this and have your TC fill this out. Or better yet, I can send you a pending analysis where how you can fill in just like your receivables. I have a spreadsheet that or a PDF that you can just fill in and take a look at your last 90 days or your last 120 days. I think you would be really, really surprised at what you find there in your practice. So the bottom line is this. See, a big part of ability is availability. And this is what TX Converter does. It makes the required information readily available to assist your TC in turning more of your PI into AI. Now, let me tell you a quick little story. About a year ago, I was talking with a doctor who, I wanted to share, what TX Converter does, and he wanted to learn what TX Converter does. So I started sharing it with him. And then he goes, well, Eric, I've got to tell you, I don't think that you can help me move the needle. And I go, doctor, why is that? He goes, because I'm doing really well right now. We're very fortunate. We're doing probably about $200,000 a month. And I have 2 TCs now. And he goes, so I doubt that you can move the needle because we're really doing a good job. I said, well, that's great, and I'm glad that you're doing that good of a job, but let me ask you a few questions. He goes, sure, go ahead, Eric. And I said, okay, well, how many number of pending exams do you have? What are their dollar values? do you know how old they are? And he's like, no. He stops and goes, Eric, I don't know any of that stuff. He goes, however, I do have a couple of TCs, so let me go get them, and I'm sure they have the answers to those questions. I said, okay, no problem. Bring them on in. So they come in, we start chatting, I start asking them these questions as well. And they're like, well, we really don't track any of that, Eric. We do each use a manual spreadsheet. We try to keep it updated, but, we're so busy that, we sometimes forget to do that. But that's what we use to gauge on, who we have to follow up with and when. I said, okay, well, it makes sense. So I excuse them, and then I started talking with the doctor. He goes, Eric, hang on. Will your system keep me abreast of all this information? Would it give my TCs all the information that you just went over? I said, absolutely. He goes, yeah, then you know what? I want to go ahead and do that. Now, you said you did some coaching, right? I said, absolutely. He goes, okay, how about we do this? Let's go ahead. I will sign up for the software. I definitely want that. But as far as your coaching goes, because I'm still, we're doing pretty good, and I doubt, I still have my doubts if you can move the needle. He goes, can I sign up for your coaching for 6 months and try it for 6 months? And we can measure what you do in 6 months of this year versus last year. I said, absolutely. Let's go ahead and do that. He says, okay, deal. So we will go ahead and start. After 6 months of being on the TX Converter system and using my coaching program, here are the results that we got for him from April through September of 2019. This is what we brought in above and beyond same time period in 2018. 16 additional starts. Now you have to remember, this place is a high volume practice, but we brought in 16 additional starts and over $74,000 in additional income. Now, I can't guarantee these numbers to anybody. I can't guarantee any numbers. What I can guarantee you, though, is if you measure the things that I share with you on a daily basis, you will increase your productivity. Now, I got a lot of questions saying, okay, Eric, I'm impressed by those numbers, but how were you able to do that? Especially for somebody who's already cranking out 200 grand a month. I said, now that's a great question. Now let me break it down to you, because I told you I wanted this to be an educational video. So here's exactly how I did it. I have a follow-up timeline right here, an analysis to show you this is probably happening in your practice right now, where your TC is probably wearing multiple hats and he or she gets busy. And if they get busy, I'm telling you, the first thing to get put on the back burner, or worse yet, get forgotten and not done altogether, is your follow-up. So let me run you through this quick analysis here and this is an actual analysis, and I wanted to show you what happened. So on February 5th, we had an exam come in. A lady came in for Invisalign, okay? And she said that she wasn't ready to get started. She needs to talk to her spouse and think about it. So the lady leaves, and here's what happened from the very next day. The clock, in my opinion, starts to tick. So that was the first day after the exam. So day 1 through 16 days go by, and the TC leaves 2 voicemails but never makes contact. So a 16-day time period, when I coach, that's too long, right? I think that 21 days is too long to allow to go by without making contact and having a conversation. And that's why in the aging, if it goes over 21 days, it turns red. But here's a 16-day time period where this TC said to herself, I did my job, I left 2 voicemails. 2 voicemails in 16 days really isn't consistent follow-up, in my opinion. All right, so in any case, that's what happened. So that was on the 16th day was on February 21st. Then we got into our coaching call, and then she told me what happened. She left 2 voicemails. I said, okay, well, it doesn't seem like voicemail is working or the phone calls is working. Let's send out an email. We send out an email. I think this was on a Friday. And then, lo and behold, we get a response on Monday, February 25th. Right? So I'm like, all right, the email worked. So then the TC responds to that email, and on the 26th sends another email, and that goes out. Then from February 27th to the 4th, a 6-day period, no follow-up, no contact. What happened was the TC actually forgot about this particular patient. Right? She sends an email out, and then 6 days go by. If we send an email out, we don't get a response in a day or two, we should be following up again. And the only way to remember that is by having a system like TX Converter where you can schedule your next follow-up action. All right. But nonetheless, 6 days go by, no contact, no follow-up. So we have a coaching call. They tell me, well, haven't heard back. I sent out an email on February 26th. So on March 5th, I say, okay, let's send out another email. So we send out another email. And then on March 6th, we get a response again. So wonderful, it's working. We get the response. Then what happens is the TC forgets to respond, all right, doesn't respond to the email, decides that after a couple of days, oh, I forgot to respond, let me go ahead and call again. Calls and leaves a voicemail. So again, another 8 days go by where the TC said, hey, I did my job, I left a voicemail. So I did my follow-up, but there was no contact, right? We've already established way in the beginning that voicemail doesn't work. But when we send out an email, we get a response. We send out an email, we get a response. So then we switch up and we send out a voicemail. We leave a voicemail and we get nothing. So again, on our coaching call, we get together. And then what happens is the TC actually realizes that, oh, I haven't heard anything, so I better send an email out. So she sends an email out. Then 4 days go by, no contact, no response. She forgets about it. So then we have another coaching call, and I said, well, I go, what has transpired? Well, I sent an email out. And I said, okay. And she goes, but I haven't heard back. I said, okay, well, can I see the email that you sent out on March 15th? She says, sure. So here it is right here. Here's the before email. Here's what she says. Just following up, my business manager was asking me if you had scheduled to move forward with your treatment. No rush if you aren't quite ready yet. I just wanted to let you know I didn't forget about you. If we don't talk before, have a wonderful weekend. I said, that was the email that went out right here. So after I read that, I said, oh no, we've got to send out another email. Basically, we told them, don't get started now, take your time. So without being salesy or pushy or anything like that, I wrote this email for her. Hi, happy Wednesday. I know I said no rush in my last email, which I meant. However, my business manager gave me permission to use a gift certificate for a start in March. If we can schedule your start appointment before the end of March, I can apply it to your case. Let me know if we can do this. If not, I will pass it along to another patient. So that was the email that went out on the 20th. On the very next day, the patient responds with this. Thank you for your follow-up with me. I have decided to go ahead with the treatment. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get into the office prior to the end of the month. I'm working full-time for the next few weeks with spring break in between. Do you have any appointments that are early in the morning or late in the afternoon? If you can't fit me in this month, no worries. Give the gift certificate to someone else. Now, we never even had to mention the dollar value of the gift certificate. It didn't matter, right? This person just felt that, of course they want to take advantage of a gift certificate. Well, back and forth. Obviously, I told the TC, I said, go ahead, give her, 2 options to come in. Bottom line is she schedules to come in on March 25th. Then she comes in and she gets started. So the moral of this story is this. Number one, you're probably having this going on in your practice, and this is where our coaching program comes in. It gets involved. We'll go down your follow-up list, and not only will we just see what's going on, we will actually write the emails with your TC. We will allow your TC to send out a text or make a phone call right in that hour coaching. All right, but the bottom line is this. There were 48 days that went by from the first exam to the start. We were lucky to make sure that we were able to convert this patient because at the very least we were still able to get some contact in here. But what I want you to understand is there's 4 days here, 8 days here, 6 days here, and 16 days here. You total those 4 up, you got 34 days out of the 48 where there is no contact. This will lose more people in this ratio of 34 out of the 48 with no contact than we'll make. We, in my opinion, were lucky that we got involved. We were here, even though we were doing follow-up saying, if you remember, we were telling them, no rush if you aren't quite ready yet. Well, unfortunately, when we let our people know, don't worry about it, take your time, there's too much competition out there these days. We don't want to give that message, right? Nor do we want to be pushy or salesy, and that is why I wrote the email in this way. We're not pushy, and this person didn't take it as being pushy. But our goal here is to convert them sooner rather than later. Okay, because the longer it takes to convert them, the less likely we have of doing that. All right, so there's one more report I want to show you in terms of conversion reports that I forgot to show you earlier, is this one right here. And the reason why I'm showing you this one is, here's a practice that, as you can see in this time frame, August, they came in at 40 starts for the month, at about 193. Now you can see here, see all these same day starts? This practice is pretty good at same day starts. However, we come in with TX Converter and we help them increase their productivity. Why? Because of the active follow-up system. Because if you take a look at this, 349 days out. I promise you, people will forget. They won't remember to follow up a year from now, right? 177 days out, 28, 43, 51, 80, 97. The average TC is going to forget about this. But TC, by allowing them to actively schedule their follow-up, they won't. So I just wanted to share the conversion report with you real quick. So it doesn't matter how small or how big, TX Converter really helps them out. So I just wanted to share one more piece with you. This is a very nice note that I got from a doctor, as you can see, just last month. It says, "To whom it may concern, it has been 6 months since our office has had the pleasure of working with Eric. We used a different TC software, and switching to TX Converter was not on our mind. But once we compared the pros and cons, it was a no-brainer to switch. We were at our comfort zone with the other company and liked the conveniences it offered at the consultation room. However, this software company didn't increase our conversion rate we were hoping for, and it turned out to be just a tool for presentation and no value for increasing revenue. What Eric substituted it with has helped increase our conversions by 10 to 15%, which has been huge for us. We opted to take advantage of his coaching sessions, and we have seen the coaching not only help with our pending cases, but also with our same-day starts. Instead of using our resources for pending cases to give bigger discounts, we have reduced our frustration with rigorous time needed for follow-ups, but rather start them on the same day with our desired fee and avoiding the additional discount. Working with Eric, it just doesn't end per contract. He's readily available through phone, text, email, whether it be about TX Converter or other issues that may come up in the practice where you like to have a third-party feedback. I would like to mention that I have gotten few consultations in regards to Google reviews, patient accounting issues that he went out of his way to help us on, and all cases we have had favorable outcomes. I hope you have the pleasure of working with Eric in the future and enjoy working with him as much as we have here at Brace Connection." Well, I bring that up just to let you know that the other thing that makes TX Converter different is, our software is focusing on turning more of your PI into AI. It also has a focus specifically on your follow-up process. Our coaching is probably, the most realistic that's out there, and because it comes from my experience of managing a practice for 8 years. These are the things that allowed me to be successful in the practice that we ran, and I'm able to scale it now and help more than just the practice I was managing. I'm able to help practices all over the US now, and I love doing it. So that is what I believe sets us differently. I hope you learned from this as far as the follow-up goes, the follow-up process, and why it's important to manage your potential income, just like you manage your receivables. So again, not a sales pitch, but I'm just going to share my pricing. It's very inexpensive as compared to our competitors, and there's nobody less expensive than us out there. So I believe our value is much bigger. So it's $199 per month. You have a setup fee and no long-term contracts. I hate long-term contracts. I do have the ability for you to sign up for an annual subscription where you save a few months worth in there. So it's a great saving. So we have that. The coaching program I keep pretty limited. It's a premium coaching program, and I don't have room for a lot of people. I keep it very limited, so it may or may not be available right now. If you have any interest at all, here's my email. It's Eric, E-R-I-C, at txconverter.com. I hope you found value in this. If you feel that you know another doctor that might find value, please feel free to share this video. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. If not, like I said, I just really wanted to put a new focus on the new year, and I hope you find value in this video. All the best to you in 2020. Take good care. Bye-bye.